So let's move on to our next important topic of these code changes, and that is one that impacts the potential size of the electrical room. And this one's important because we know that 30% of the construction cost today is related to change orders, and most specifically around this code standard. So Chad, can you kind of explain what changes have been made in the 2023 edition and how that's going to impact the working space required?
No, thank you, Kelly, because 110.26 is a section that we're talking about for working space. And this code change really, I think, is really important because it solves a long-standing concern over how open equipment doors can impact the working space, entrance and egress out of the space. We've had a requirement in the code that the equipment doors open a minimum of 90 degrees. And this really goes beyond that to say, well, okay, how much working space do I need? And this clarifies that you need a minimum of 2 feet or 24 inches wide by 6.5 feet high entrance and egress out of the working space. And I think that's a really key component that was really left subjectively up to AHJs to interpret, do you have enough working space or not? So we have a couple graphics that'll help us walk through this code change. So if we look at the graphic on 110.26, we see an equipment lineup, and opposite the equipment lineup, we have our working space line there, our drawing there. And if we think about where that line is, if that was a concrete wall, then that could be considered a condition 2 space in accordance with table 110.26, which means that you need 3.5 feet or 42 inches of working space. And if we consider large equipment, because large equipment would have the largest doors, so a 480 volt switchboard in this case, let's consider a 30-inch door. If that door will open to 120 degrees, now it protrudes into that working space 26 inches, therefore really only leaving 16 inches of entrance and egress out of that working space, which now we know is not enough, right? We have clear delineation. So that electrical room's got to get bigger, right? So I think that that's a key thing for folks to consider. And they're going to need to include that in their layouts, right, to make sure that they can accomplish that. A common question that gets asked, though, is how does this get impacted if I have multiple lineups and the multiple lineups face each other? Well, if we look at our second graphic, we can see a lineups where an electrical room with a common configuration where the equipment lineups face each other, right? And now we must consider equipment doors open to their maximum position in both lineups, and whether or not you still have that minimum 2 feet wide working space, depth, as well as the height to get out of that room. So I think that in total, this is a really positive change. It removes some ambiguity on the requirements. And so I think that's an important change to go forward. Judy, when we think about door openings and the equipment, where are customers going to get that information?
Yeah, they're probably going to just need to contact the equipment manufacturers because we can provide that information to them. But you know, they also need to think about the physical constraints of the actual room. In some cases, you know, even though our doors will open wider than 90 degrees, it might be mounted next to a wall and not allow the full door opening. So they're going to have to pay close attention to details like that.
Thanks, Judy. This change will highlight the need for architects and engineers to coordinate space requirements. Once construction is in place, it can be very costly or difficult to solve these problems. Additionally, the new requirement in this section requires proper grading for the working space along the depth and the width of it. And this can be particularly challenging in an exterior application with gear. So, Judy, does Schneider Electric offer any tools to assist with this?
Yeah, there's BIM tools such as Revit coupled with our advanced electrical design can help specifiers manage these requirements during the design stage.
So it seems like there's been subtle changes around the working space in the last few cycles of the NEC